Howdy folks, welcome to Brewing TV. I'm your host Jay Keeler.
I'm your other host, Michael Dawson. Hops in America are exciting.
They are. They're so exciting that we decided to show you 3 different versions. On the West Coast, we visited Blake Crosby at the Crosby Farms in a 5th generation hop farming operation.
Big.
Came back here to the Midwest, met up with Fatty Matty in Wisconsin on a 1/4 of an acre hop farm.
Oh.
And of course, we'd be remiss not to show you our backyard hop crops.
Yeah, we're gonna finish the episode with a little time to brew wet hopped red rye ale, finished with some fresh off the bine Centennials and Liberties. So stick around, grab a pint of beer, all for brew.
Brew for all.
Hops. You know them, you love them. You pretty much can't brew without them. Some people are legitimately obsessed with them. Many pro and home brewers like to push their use of the bitter green cones to the max. If you don't grow them yourself, you probably buy them from a shop. Even if you do grow them yourself, you probably still buy some from a shop. And those hops come from a hop grower. You're about to meet 2 guys that grow hops in 2 very different ways. In the Pacific Northwest, hops are big business. Some of the nation's most popular varieties originated here. Think Cascade, Mount Hood, Amarillo, Simcoe.
Oh, this is basically, late spring on a hop farm here in Oregon. And these are nuggets. And they were trained probably about 10 days ago.
Blake Crosby is a 5th generation hop grower in the Willamette Valley. He comes from 2 families of hop growers. You could say he's got lupulin in his blood.
I was always running around with my dad from, I don't even know, probably day one. I can't remember that far back, but I remember being 4 or 5 and riding around in the pickup and always being super into the harvest. I never really got to explore too much because my parents were always it's pretty dangerous. Don't want a little kid running around, but I remember always being super excited to be able to come out here and during harvest, and check out all that. I actually started working probably when I was 12, doing more actual tasks as far as farming stuff.
What sort of stuff would they have you do at that age?
I was actually doing a lot of tractor driving by then, cultivating hops.
Yeah.
Or, we move irrigation pipe.
Blake continues the family tradition here at B. Crosby Hop Farm.
I think these nugget yards have been in since the mid 80s. We're pushing, over 20 years already with no, decline in production or anything.
Brewing TV visited the 250-acre farm back in May when the bines were just starting to make their way up the wire. Here you see row upon row of Nugget, Sterling, Centennial, Willamette, and Cascade.
As far as kind of the scale, back then it was all subsistence farming. It was not like we're trying to make money, we're trying to, it's not a business, this is just livelihood. And hops grew well here, and there was, a demand for them. And people just, a lot of people had 5-acre hop yards or 10 acres. Maybe 10 acres was probably a really big grower, at the turn of the century.
Was it all done by hand?
Yeah.
Pruning and training.
Everything
and
was done
harvest?
by hand, yeah. Harvest, and they would actually drop the yards down at harvest so they could, a lot easier to pick them that way by hand.
Blake says his grandfather's generation is the one that revolutionized hop growing from subsistence farming to large-scale, business-minded, commercial hop farming. B. Crosby Hop Farm's major clients are larger breweries, but under Blake's management, they've also started selling hops and rhizomes to homebrewers. We visited at the beginning of the season and saw the just-trained hops reaching for the sky. Blake recently supplied us with these pictures from this year's harvest.
That the guys hang the vines on. They bring the vines in on trailers, and they hang them on the hooks. Then they go up these tracks all the way over there, and then you got a guy up on front of the main picker, is what we call that big deal with bars that goes around. That does the main thrashing of the vines and gets all the, pick all the arms and leaves and strips them down. Yeah, actually I think you can smell hops, especially at night. When we're picking, I think you can smell within a 1-mile radius.
While at the farm, Blake took us inside the belly of the beast on a dry run of the harvest process. First, up to the main picker.
This is kind of the overall view. I think the best view here where you can see all the different things. We have the main picker, so the vines go through there on that track up top, and that track pinches them and carries them all the way to the end and then drops them. It kind of opens up at the end and drops the vines down through that chute, and then it gets chopped up in the chopper, just a big rotary blade thing. Then they go out the exit there and end up out back.
I have a couple centennial vines in my backyard just for my own use, and I'm pretty thrilled when I can get a pound or two out of them. What would be a good yield for a commercial operation like you guys?
That's a good question, because we never think of like yield per vine. You know, we're always thinking bales per acre. But I think, you know, obviously it depends on the varieties, but I think that a centennial dry hop, so you're talking dry? Or?
Yeah, dried.
Okay, dried.
Dried weight.
I think 2 or 3 pounds would be pretty, you know, full production, I would guess, per vine.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I don't think you're too far off.
Then over to the gigantic dryer.
So basically you have the rooms down below, and we have big natural gas burners that just blow massive amounts of hot air into those rooms, and that air, of course, rises up through the bottom. And we'll actually have claws that we lay out here. They're called kiln claws that the hops are spread onto with that machine. That's called a kiln layer. So all the hops come in from over in the picker via that conveyor through to this conveyor, and then spread over the floor with the kiln layer.
As backyard growers, we were blown away by the size and scale of the equipment needed for pulling, picking, drying, and packaging hops.
Harvest is intense. It's a 24/7 battle of mind, body, and soul. It can be rewarding, and but it definitely tests a person. Yeah. And it's a lot of work.
More recently, we visited a very different type of hop farm. This is Matt Sweeney of Simple Earth Hops. Matt's a first-generation hop grower. Actually, he's a first-year commercial hop grower. Simple Earth Hops is a quarter-acre piece of land at the Green Spirit CSA farm in Dodgeville, Wisconsin.
Just small enough that I can, you know, still manage it with some help from my wife. But, you know, at the time being, there's no harvesting equipment for anything like this, so we have to be able to manage the harvest too. So that's kind of the thought with if you go too big, well, it's kind of beyond the point of harvesting.
Matt's interest in hops began with homebrewing.
2 years into it, in 2006, I started tossing the idea around about, you know, putting something in the backyard that I could add to my beer. And hops is a really easy fit for Wisconsin. Just got a lot more interested in the idea of maybe, you know, doing something professionally with brewing and the business of beer. After working at the farm here for a couple years, we tossed the idea around of putting hops in on a larger scale, something we could sell commercially to the, you know, the plethora of brewers that are around here.
Matt's small-scale hop farming business is partially funded by a grant from the USDA. The SARE grant is awarded for sustainable agriculture, research, and education.
After the grant was finished being written, I just started the next thing, you know, lining up the poles and all the things we needed to, you know, make the puzzle fit together. I looked at the small-scale organic commercial hop manual by Rebecca Keenan from British Columbia of Cronut Ales. It's like the only on-farm brewery in British Columbia, I guess, but they grow hops, and they got a grant to write the hops manual for small-scale growing organically. I'm like, this is the Bible, man.
When choosing which varieties to plant, Matt researched the varieties that were most tolerant to pests and climate conditions of southwest Wisconsin. He chose Mount Hood, Pearl, and Cascade.
Like, part of nature is it's random. Things are not, you know.
Right.
So for me, I'm thinking, okay, well, if all the Mount Hoods are in that corner and all the Cascades are down here and the Mount Hoods get all messed up from whatever, then all the Mount Hoods are going to get messed up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like a little micro biodiversity.
Right, exactly.
Scoff if you must, but Wisconsin was once a powerhouse of hop growing, and many people would like to see it regain that agricultural claim. The state was a huge area of hop production in the 1800s, responsible at its peak for nearly 1/5 of the annual American crop. These are pictures from the Sauk County Historical Society. You can see men, women, and children all lending a hand during harvest. Sauk County is just north of Simple Earth hops, and alone turned out more than 4 million pounds of hops in 1867. As you can see, Matt is at once innovating and continuing a tradition. Matt's not expecting too much from his inaugural crop. By next year, he's hoping for 20 to 60% of what his field will yield once it's mature, which happens in the plant's 3rd year. And Matt's not thinking big, like macro breweries. He's thinking small and local, like the breweries literally down the highway.
Starting next year, I've sort of promised what hops I have to Jeff Donahue at the Brewery Creek Inn and Aaron Madden and Chris Staples at Furthermore Beer in Spring Green. Well, for me, and really anybody else who's going to try and sell hops commercially, if you find that locavore brewer, he's not going to be like, no, screw you. He's going to be like, I love you, This is the gold that the brewers are wanting, man. This is the essential oils and the goods that we're brewing with, This is kind of a test too, so we have the opportunity to go bigger with the land we had from the farm here. So, I don't know, I figured start small, it's less scary.
As long as nature provides, Matt says he'll keep growing.
Things are gonna get messed up. I'm gonna have storms that take out the hops and, XYZ that is gonna screw up my harvest. We'll get through it.
All right, people, you've asked for it, and now you're gonna get it.
Time to brew, the wet hop edition. It rained last night, so these are legitimately wet hops.
They are.
We're doing a wet hopped red rye ale, 20% Munich, 20% rye, some pale malt, some other crap, lots of wet hops. Recipes online at brewingtv.com.
Sweet.
Let's get busy.
Let's do it.
We've achieved boil, just wrapping up the sparge. Gonna take a gravity reading soon. Gonna bitter it with some Yakima Magnum pellets and use a little bit of Autonum for flavoring. We're using pellets for that as well, just to kind of minimize the hop mass in the boiler, because we're gonna wind up using 10 to 12 ounces of hops right off the vine. This might not be as sessiony as I thought.
Yeah.
I was shooting for a final gravity of about 1048. It's 1060.
Yeah.
The beast might have been too efficient.
I feel like I can't do anything here.
You having a good time?
Yeah.
You having a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, you wanna do something?
Sure, I'd love to.
How about you pick 5 to 6 ounces wet of Centennial?
Okay.
Big ones in the alley.
All right. Looking pretty good. Oh yeah, look at that. That's what we're looking for. You could be picking these hops all day long. We got a good amount of humidity this summer, a lot of rain this summer, and higher temperatures than normal here in Minnesota. So the conditions were really good for growing just about everything: vegetables, weeds, hops. So it's been an excellent growing season. So. Franken cone. Look at this. It's just, you know, look at that. I mean, you can see what's available when you walk by, but then it just is growing it underneath. And this is why I think, you know, put the investment into getting rhizomes. Start growing your own hops. I mean, I did it this year for the first time, and I'm just amped at 2 years, 3 years from now. If I've got something that looks vaguely like this crop here after 6 years, I mean, I could be out here all day picking this stuff. Probably will be out here all day picking Dawson's hops.
How you doing, Keeler? You got enough yet?
I'm getting there. I think I'm getting pretty close. I need to weigh these out.
I got a scale ready.
All right, I'll be over in a second. All right, this is probably 1/100th of your centennial crop so far.
Awesome.
It's sort of never ending. The more I move one vine out of the way, it just shows another cluster of hops.
Tithe to the Lord of the Vikings peasant. Oh, hey. You did pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
1 pound, 2 ounces.
that's a pound. So the ratio you want to use for wet hops, because of all that water weight, is about 5 to 6 ounces wet or fresh versus 1 ounce dried.
Okay.
So I was shooting to use the equivalent of about 1 ounce Centennial and 1 ounce of Liberty in this beer, but since we overshot the gravity, I say let's just roll with this. Let's roll with this and step on the dog.
Oy, 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 look at that.
Tell the nice people what you're smelling.
Oh, man. Oh, it's like hop soup. Ooh, these are just gigantic. These are more leafy, a little drier. These are a little more pungent.
This is an advanced sample of the hop rocket that Northern Brewer got from Blickman Engineering. And I took it, my precious, for my own. No, not really. I'm just borrowing it for the day. But this is like a dual use hop back and inline real-time hop infuser, AKA Randall.
Some pretty massive cones, so I'm gonna grab them by the handful. Oops, sorry, put them down there. Don't want stems. Almost got them all here. And there we go.
It's gonna be some strong stuff. It's 18 bricks. So basically a wet hopped red rye Doppelbock. We'll see what the final volume is like. We'll probably dilute it a little bit, just so Keeler and I can have more than one.
If you have the opportunity to do a wet hopped beer, you can pick it right from your backyard. Why not? Give it a try. Especially with a 6-year crop, like you said, where you're gonna have plenty of dry hops for
Oh yeah.
the remainder
Yeah,
of the
after
year.
I dry them.
Yeah, that's not gonna be an issue, so use them while you got them.
Well, hey Keeler, I think this brew day is just about in the bag.
Yeah, awesome brew day. One for the notes.
Yeah.
Hop Rocket, awesome new system you've got here.
Gratuitous
wet
use
hopping.
of equipment.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that never
man.
hurts.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good episode too, I think.
I think
if
so.
If I do say so myself.
Yeah, big thank you to Blake Crosby and showing
Uh-huh.
us around and taking some time out of his busy day.
Showing us how it works at the beginning of the season on a big scale hop farm.
Yeah.
Thanks also to Matt Sweeney at Simple Earth Hops. Into the season on a small scale, really cool operation.
Yeah, really digging his philosophy. Well, and thank you for letting us come over here, brew in your new rig, and pick from your crops of hops.
Anytime, man. Don't come back.
All right.
Yeah, I hope this
Yeah.
has inspired some people to try wet hopping with their own hops, or barring that, maybe growing your own or expanding your operation. Plant some rhizomes in the dirt next spring, see what comes up.
That's right. And thanks to BYO and the Brewing Network, our friends with benefits.
Lovely people.
Beyond that, I don't know what is left to say.
All for brew.
Brew for all.
And he's like, yeah, I'm always mowing down hops in my backyard because they're like taking over the yard. And I'm like, no, dude, really? Seriously? You know?
BTV viewers, you want it?
Everybody's excited about it.
You got it. Hops. Using hops in your brew.
The dog was kind of spooked by this while I was building it. It took me, I did it over the space of 3 nights, 3 evenings. And the first was just all the little monkey work, putting the burners together and assembling all the casters and legs and stuff like that. And I did that all inside. That took 2 beers. Then the next step was to actually put the legs and burners and shelves on the mast. That took another 2 beers on a different night. And then the third night was running all the gas manifolds, which was very easy, and assembling the pump, running the hoses and stuff like that. That was That was really just like a 1.5 beer job. So pretty easy to build, but I had this thing outside under a tarp, and Risa came out one morning and saw the tarp and did a double take and went back inside. Aliens or something, I don't know what she thought. Oh, I drank it, but I was just relaxing at that point.